You know what I fucking realized when watching that last episode? I say you know what I mean way too fucking much. It was 100%.
Let's talk about that a bit.
And then now, like this last episode, it was a lot fewer 100%s, but a lot more. You know what I mean, bro? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, bro, it was so cringe, man. I was so tough to fucking
I didn't
listen
notice
to.
that one actually. I noticed when I say that we talk over each other a lot, because that's something that I texted you the other day when I finished the edit. We don't necessarily like try to try to like get the fill the air with our voices and like try to like put points over each other. It's more when you're talking and we're agreeing on something. We will like I will often be like yeah. Like we'll say yeah a lot over
Right.
each other,
Yeah.
which is
it wasn't agree. I definitely agree, because that is definitely one of my biggest like pet peeves for sure. I'm listening, so a bad fucking like pod was, and it's tough to say because I love both of them, Rogan and Dan Soder. Bro, Soder kept fucking talking over Joe. It's like, dog,
as a listener,
shut up,
yeah,
like
listener,
let this guy talk, man. But like, it's because he was excited to talk, like whatever that topic was. You know what I mean? Like he was very much in the zone, but he just kept fucking talking over. And when I say talking over, it wasn't like agreeing. It was like Joe would say something, and then he would literally just railroad into whatever the fuck he was thinking about. You know what I mean?
It's having like good conversation, especially when you're having a conversation around people listening, right? Because Joe, he does that shit for a living. That's his gig, man. And he's a fucking like a red belt at that shit. And
Pretty
whereas
much.
his guests, for the most part, aren't like that's not their medium of whatever content that they're making. A lot of these guys are
That's fair.
researchers. A lot of these guys are not coming in as with that in mind. Whereas Joe is like he's a fucking red belt at that shit. Like especially his episode with Cat Williams, man. His most recent episode with Cat, we can get into
patience,
that. Bro, the patience.
The patience.
As I was listening, I was like, man, if I was in Joe's shoes right now, like I don't know how.
Like, yo, do you want to be here right now? Like,
yeah, I don't like. To his credit, that's exactly the same question that I asked myself. Trying to imagine myself in his shoes was like, bro, Joe probably thinks this guy is just like probably like if you're talking about dance partners, because podcasting, like he put it right, it's like you're having a dance with someone, you're having like this interaction with someone where like it's kind of like give and take, push and pull. And I was just thinking, man, this is hard to get through right now. It's hard to listen to this guy, Cat, I'm talking about, and I can't imagine how it is for Joe. But to his credit, he's a fucking red belt, and he kind of just like
he understood the assignment.
He understood the assignment exactly, and he made it, and I think it's so much. There's a skill in that, man. And I think it's over decades or just years of doing it, where really just makes it feel like he's really good at not making the other person feel stupid or like that they don't belong in the room. Whereas I feel like if I was in the shoes in that interview, I might have like you know. Done a little bit more asking, like, digging in, like, oh, like where'd you get your source from, like questions like that. You know what I mean? Like, how do you know that? You know what I mean? Where you could possibly risk the other person feeling like, oh, like this guy's trying to like fight with me.
Yeah, I think a part of it is the fact that Joe that's his community. That's like he knows comedians, and he knows what he's dealing with. You know what I mean? And I think because he's had so many reps having people on that. Did you see that shit where he had that like guy that ended up getting arrested by, I think, the NYPD or whatever?
Dude.
So like he has a huge mixed bag of different people, and to your point, I think it is 100% a skill of recognizing certain behaviors and certain ways to like elicit an actual good conversation. Because there were times on that pod I'm like, yo, Cat, like, okay, I get it, like you're cool in your own zone, but like it was almost borderline disrespectful, the condescending like nature of or just the way that he was kind of carrying himself. Is like you were bitching and complaining about Joe Rogan not inviting you on the podcast. Now you're too cool to be fucking like be on the podcast. I think part of it, because my boys and I were talking about it. I think a part of it was maybe he was just too fucking high, bro. Because I think that's a way.
Very
That's
possible.
actually a tool
Very
that I
possible.
think, and we're just speculating here, but I think Rogan, for some of the people that are okay with smoking weed and they might have like their defenses up, I think he uses that as a way to kind of get their walls to come down, but it might have backfired slightly with Cat, because I think he kind of shelled up a little bit and got a little bit paranoid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Because it is so I can imagine it being so jarring, bro. Just you go on, you're in the mecca of podcasts, of media,
Mm-hmm.
talking to the fucking goat.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you got millions of people watching, and you're Cat motherfucking Williams.
Mhm.
Like you're Cat Williams, bro. Like you're the motherfucker. Like you're in the
He's up there.
he's up there in comedy, man. And for you to come in and like you said, like there might have been some a little
He
bit
got
too
too
much puff
blem,
puff.
man. I think he
A little
got
bit
too blem,
yeah,
bro.
where it kind of like counteracted, where the effect was instead of having his walls come
He
down a little
disarmed.
bit,
Yeah.
it was more
As it progressed, I thought it got better, and perhaps like that's something. Those are things that we can work into our repertoire, obviously, because we haven't had any guests or anything yet. But I think that's something because that's going to be a completely new skill set once we start having guests on here.
yeah.
But maybe we're just overthinking it. But I think this is a nature of who we are as individuals, as just like the way that we tick, right? Like we analyze things almost to a detriment at times.
I think in this
Overanalyze.
case, this is good because
It is.
Because-
I'm not saying it's not good.
yeah.
I'm saying that's just in our personality to do that, because sometimes, I mean, I can speak for myself. I may sometimes have a tendency of overanalyzing or overthinking and just
Yeah.
being paranoid about shit. But to me, that's a good instinct to have. Paranoia protects you, man.
1,000,000,000%.
And welcome back to another episode. I know we talked about we didn't do our fucking weekly updates or whatever. We could do that afterwards.
Yeah.
I think maybe we just roll into it. Welcome back, everybody, to another podcast.
Welcome back, folks.
Yes. Perhaps
we'll learn a little bit more about the world and about podcasting and about life and about the universe and about the existential
and just
inevitable,
learn, yes, the circumference of the diameter
circumstantial,
and the radius of the
infallible
calculations and the parabolas of these systems that intertwine and
don't
interdepend on each other.
just don't forget about the interdependence of
Absolutely, indubitably, yes.
the circumstantial evidence. Okay, so but no, I do think that having that analytical, because I agree that we are both super analytical, and when it comes to this thing that we're doing here, for me at least, we're 15 episodes. This is our 15th episode.
Is this
now,
15
I think.
episodes now?
We're
I thought it was like 13.
13 maybe.
I think this is our 13th one.
But because we do it on a weekly cadence, and if you're not, if you're doing it only once a week, like kind of like comparing it to something like Jits, where we do quite often, like 4 or 5 times a week, right?
Mhm.
You just don't get that much time, right? And so
Mhm.
I think for us, it's going to work to our favor, 100%, that we look at other podcasts and other content that we're consuming, and we're able to draw, like, say, hey, like that. This is what I learned from that Cat Williams podcast with Joe, and that's something I actually want to ask you about, was because since we're only doing this once a week, and since we both value the skill, we definitely have to think about or consider getting more reps somehow, some way. And like maybe that will open the door to having like an additional episode throughout the week. At some point, I'm not saying now or tomorrow,
Right.
but at some point, if we do want to like take this, not to the, I wasn't gonna say take it to the next level, but like actually
Getting more bang.
intentional,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I don't think. Okay.
And developing that
I
skill
don't think it's
faster.
more of a question of being more intentional.
No,
I
it's
think
not.
I think it's to your point. It's just a question of how can we min max this,
Yeah.
right? And I think the cadence of one a week is great, actually, even into the future, because I think that week in between actually gives a lot of time for us to absorb life and like actually have something to talk about for that week. I mean, I'm not mad at. I mean, one way to obviously get more reps in is to do more throughout the week. And I think at this point, it's going to be kind of tough to do that unless we're okay with doing it remote. And maybe that's a way
Maybe
that we
that's the
flow
thing.
into
Yeah,
it, right?
you're
Because
right.
that is something that we've spoken about. Like we've brainstormed. Like we have to come up with an alternative setup in the event that let's say I'm remote or you're remote or whatever it might be. We still want to commit to at least dishing out one a week. So maybe that's a way that we can meld into that. But the way that I look at it is I look at it just the same way that I look at jits when I'm injured. I'm not able to train, but I can train my mind. I can train the technique. And to your point, when I'm listening to podcasts now, I'm looking at it from that lens now,
Me too.
and I think that's something that as you identify something, that's something you bring to the following episode. We could have like a quick talk about it right before, and then that's something that we want. Like so, what we just did like right before we were already recording, but I think that's something that we can do to min max, and maybe we were more deliberate about it, and actually as it comes up, just put it on the Discord, and then that way both of us are kind of aware of it, and I think that's one way to kind of min max it, because otherwise, the only other way that you're, I think by the nature of our both of our like what we do for work, I think is also a way that you can kind of min max it too, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
as you're as you're facilitating meetings and moderating collaborations between different people or whatever, usually like for example, usually when I'm hosting meetings, I'm the one that's kind of facilitating everything, right? So I think I try to be mindful of a lot of that stuff when or I try to kind of look at it from that lens. Can you close up the there a little bit? Yeah. Um, but yeah, otherwise I don't think unless we add another app like throughout the week or record another app throughout the week, that's about the only way I think.
Yeah. Actively listening, actively consuming, I think is a good way to put it, because there's a difference between actively consuming and just consuming, passively
Passively
consuming,
consuming, yeah,
right?
without and that's there's nothing wrong with that. That's
Yeah.
that's how most people will consume
Right.
will consume content, right? But it's just like now that I'm teaching more jits, it's not to say that it's not good training, but it's a different kind of training where now I'm not looking at it from my lens of like, oh, how am I going to improve? I'm looking at it from the lens of like, how's this student, like, what are they strong at? What can they improve on? It's
Right.
So it's the same thing with here, where it's just like, okay, I might not be actively doing or recording an app, but I'm watching and consuming other like podcasts and taking away the best practices. Let's take what works and then drop what's not. And I think this is the beauty of this is that we don't really have anybody to answer to
Yeah.
ourselves. And I think that we use our preferences as a guiding light of what's cool, and we stay true to that. I don't think that we try to do anything that, oh, that's the hottest thing right now, so we should do it, even though it doesn't really align. Like we're not really interested in it, but it works. Like
Right.
let's not, because it's not going to come off as genuine, right?
No.
um like for me, I could talk for days about something that I'm actually interested in. If I'm not interested in it, it's gonna come off. It's gonna
Yeah, people can see through
people
that.
can see through that, right? It's interesting because it's kind of like probably I think Rogan talked about this on his podcast. Like we're fucking wild animals still. Like when you're doing stand up comedy, like people can sense when you're scared or when you're nervous. The
Oh yeah.
same thing when it comes to podcasts, right? Like when you're really passionate about a topic and you know what the fuck you're talking about, and you have a point to make and you have something to say and you're saying it with conviction, that's going to come across to people that are listening, right? If you're just like talking about something, oh, because that's the hottest thing or whatever, or you're doing something because that seems to work, but it's not actually aligned with who you are genuinely, I think that's a direction that we should move away
I
from.
think so
Right?
too. And I think one of the reasons that pulled me into wanting to do this, you and just in general, was to cover more about the topics that are kind of trending and that are
Mhm.
is kind of being
Things
more
that interest us though,
right. Yeah, but
yeah,
at first it was
or
just
we find
more,
it interesting or like
yeah,
intriguing, yeah.
that genuine interest aspect of it was something that I didn't really factor in
Hmm.
until now, being 13 episodes in, starting to value that way more and stray away from, like you said, the just whatever's hot. at the
Yeah.
moment, right? On any given week, whatever's trending, whatever's going viral. I mean, it's definitely something that we can cover, but as far as filtering just on the basis of interest,
Mhm.
I think is an easy rule to follow. And
No, more times than not, things that are like things that are in like the top headlines and whatnot
Are gonna have
are going to be things that are
Yeah.
interesting to us more
Yeah.
times than not. But I don't give a fuck about. I don't know why like Barbie just came to mind, but if you ask me about the Barbie, like I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like why the fuck would I give about like, and why would I like talk about it in any kind of meaningful length? It might be popular on like the algorithm, like algo, and people talking about it and whatnot.
right.
But I don't know. Maybe this comes back to bite us because hopefully we don't become something that it does become more of like, you know, more for the clicks and the views as opposed to what we genuinely are interested in. Because I want to look back at it and be like for that body of work, no, that was all authentic, that was all genuine, that was not any some like, we didn't just do it for the bag. Because luckily right now, like both of us are working and whatnot. We don't rely on this as like our livelihood or whatever. So we have that luxury of being like, you know what, like we have all the freedom that we have. Why are we gonna go into a lane that like just because that's a popular thing to do?
Yeah. And it just makes it more fun too. It makes it more fun. It makes I can't imagine how stressful and how tough it might be one of those social media channels or content creators that base their entire content around trending topics.
And they gotta seem excited about it, and it's like, oh, bro, I could tell that
Like
you're
news
you're
and
not.
stuff.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
news is something different, but
But even news is, regardless of whether it's viral or not, like that's fucked. Like coming in every single, like you have to watch everything
yeah,
like a hawk. And
I think the news thing, I'm not I don't think it's really applicable in my opinion, just because for them that's their occupation. They're paid to do that, whereas they're not the actual creators. They don't really they have to answer to producers. They have to answer to a committee of some sort usually.
Yeah.
Whereas for like if you're a podcaster or like you're a YouTube channel and you're doing just shit for views and like clickbaity stuff, things that are trending or whatever, because it's just, but it's not actually genuine or authentic to you.
Yeah.
That's where it's like, oh, but no, you made that decision, not any kind of fucking producer or whatever.
Yeah.
It was you. Like you had the creative freedom to talk whatever the fuck you want, but now you're talking about some shit that it's clear that you don't give a fuck about. Right?
Yes. So one of the examples that I had in mind was a newsletter that I subscribed to called the Milk Road crypto. Really successful. It was made by Sean Puri, who was my first million podcast.
The podcast, right? Yeah.
And it was really just like a side hustle for him. Like 2 years ago, he started it. I
Mhm.
think in 2021, actually, so a few years. And he was just looking for something to do. And he, as well as Sam, and just people like in that sphere, in that these entrepreneur guys, when they talk about starting content or doing a business, one of the people that like newsletters will often say, just pick a topic and just be 2-3 steps ahead of what the normal person that would also be interested in that topic would be.
Right.
And if you can report on that, then that's adding value to that person's life. And that's how you get people to read your newsletter or go to your podcast. And so how that's different from our podcast is that we're not really reporting or trying to keep up with a particular industry.
No.
Whereas I think doing that, like having a Milk Road where you're reporting and you're trying to like research things that are trending, things that are viral in that space. I mean, there's a personality that might be okay and aligned with that, but for me, like I just feel like that's like stressful.
No,
like it's hard.
It's okay. Part of it is because both of us are lazy.
Yeah,
we're lazy, so I don't want to have to fucking research shit on a weekly basis.
Me too.
On top of all the things that I gotta fucking do
Exactly.
already. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, we've talked about it a little bit before. I think what I'm going for is I want y'all to watch because of me. I want y'all to watch because of my brother. So it's a cult of personality.
Yeah.
You're tuning in because of our unique takes, or maybe not so unique, or just like our personal takes. We're talking heads, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, obviously, it's good to be informed on the topics that we're talking about, but being informed about topics that you actually want to talk about is a lot easier than like sitting down and actually researching shit that you're loosely interested in,
Yeah.
but you're doing it out of an obligation because
Right.
now I'm looking at it from, oh, my viewers are expecting this type of shit. Whereas for us, like hopefully our viewers are tuning in just because of us, not necessarily just because, oh, they have like they know the latest and greatest shit when it comes to technology. No, I
No.
don't, bro. Like,
Exactly.
if you're tuning in for this shit, thinking that we know anything, just know that we're both borderline autistic. I mean, I can speak for myself, but
Yeah.
no, I'll
I'll
speak for
put
my
myself
brother
there,
too.
Yeah, I'm
You
up
know?
there. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly. And I think if you're tuning in, at the very least, what you could expect out of us would be just talking about our experiences and sharing what from our own experience, what's working for us, what's not working
Mhm.
for us. Just sharing that kind of value.
And if you could get value from it,
Great,
wonderful. Thank you
great.
for watching.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother, come back and
Hell
tune in.
fucking yeah, man. And tell us
Yeah.
about it too. Tell us about it
Should
too.
we set up a GoFundMe and then you know what I mean? You guys send us some funds or what's good?
Dude, is that like that thing completely died, eh? Or
GoFundMe?
like is it like
No,
what
that
are,
thing is alive and
it's
well.
alive and well? People
Yeah,
are still
it gets a little ugly.
it's getting a little
Yeah.
ugly.
Well, I mean,
A
you
lot of
have people
scandals.
that like create. Yeah, I think I wonder like what kind of shit that they have in place. What kind of methodologies? Like what kind of like safeguards and controls do they have that ensure that there's
More
less of
scandals.
that happening? Because you'll have people that will create a fund on behalf of people and just run away with the money.
Wild.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Crazy.
fucking human nature, bro.
It
What
is.
starts out as a good deed turns out to be turns out to bring out the ugly side of you.
Like when it's like I feel, bro, I don't know why, like just putting my tinfoil cap on a little bit. Whenever you see those pastors, those super rich pastors that go around and do all these talks.
Joel Osteen,
Yeah,
the super church.
fly around in their private jets.
Bro, you see what they did? You hear? You know who Joel Osteen is? He's like this mega church out in I think Houston.
I think this is the same guy that
Yeah, and he always talks
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
His eyes is just like he's trying to squint and like pretend like kind of visualize that maybe if I squint like this, people will believe me. Because the shining light is so bright that I gotta squint my eyes from the light of the Lord.
Oh,
Yeah, no, that guy's so cringe, man. Like, and it's so ugly because I think if you look up a story back when Houston was having these floods, they closed the doors of their church from people like basically looking for shelter because apparently they had like new floors or some shit and they didn't want to get the floors dirty from the dirty people that are coming from the streets.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Oh my god.
Yeah, that shit is mad ugly. And it's
So
so
maybe
funny.
sometimes I want to see that there's this a clip of this you said Joel Osteen?
Joel Osteen, yeah.
Yeah.
So just a quick disclaimer, this video is only my opinion. and
Outside
you
of
should
Joel
form your own
Osteen.
opinions too. Boy. So when I was a kid, I remember I would see Joel Osteen books, Joel Osteen on my TV, hear him on the radio.
Yeah, this guy's
talking
huge,
about
man.
If what you boo, what he mean about and from Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Biography.
Oh, I thought you. Yeah, no.
Phoenix, Arizona. Hello.
This guy's not even the worst of it. There's another guy that. Fuck, I forget his name. Okay, search mega church, private jet.
Yeah.
This guy looks like Lucifer incarnate, bro. This guy right here. Yes. No. Go up. That guy right. You don't look. You didn't see the look of evil in his eyes, bro. Look at this dude. Yes, exactly. She's asking like, yo, like, why do you have private jets, bro?
Is it true that you want to fly commercial so that you can fly in luxury? How much money did you pay for Tyler Perry's Gulfstream jet, for example?
Well, for example, that's really none of your business. But
Isn't it the business of your donors?
listen,
Oh. Great
I
question.
paid.
Oh, I got a story for you afterwards, but
You kind
bro.
of caught me off guard here. Okay.
Oh man.
Thank you, Lord.
Look-
this is
Let me just
Thank
ask
you,
you
Lord.
a question. A lot of
Look at him. He
people
looks like the
hire
devil,
somebody
bro.
or a preacher to live a life of luxury and to fly around in private jets. What's your response to that?
very simple. It takes a lot of money to do what we do. Without the airplane,
Look at his eyes.
that
Look
I
at his
bought
eyes.
Tyler Perry, and I didn't pay anywhere. And Tyler's one of the greatest guys. He made it. He made that airplane so cheap for me, I couldn't help
God.
but buy it.
I couldn't help
Question
but
then-
buy it.
Okay, all right, but I want to get to the demons because people are very concerned about that comment.
Give me a chance here, Inside Edition. I love your eyes.
Again, getting back to the
I love
comment.
yours,
You
too.
said that you don't
This guy
want to
looks like
fly
a-
commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really
Best flying
believe
commercial.
that human
God.
beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
Look at that.
Wow.
We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but principalities and powers.
Can you explain what you meant by that term then? Just
He's
explain, 'cause
completely
it's really
calm.
simple. You said you didn't want to get into
Professional.
a tube with a bunch of demons. What did you mean? Do you think that people that fly commercial are demons?
Give me a chance to talk, sweetheart. I'll explain this to you. But it's a biblical thing. It's a spiritual thing. It doesn't have anything
Oh.
to do with people.
Oh, is it?
People. I love people.
Oh.
Jesus loves people.
Jesus loves people.
Oh,
yeah, dude. Like
what a-
these mega churches are mad. It's basically a corporate cult. That's the way I've always like referred to them as.
Yeah.
Because you have like cults are like little. They're basically little like startups to what can become something like that.
With enough members.
With enough
with
members, that's what I'm
employees.
saying. It's like a cult goes viral, and then now they move out of this like little, 250 square feet little room into this mega church, and bro, it's
Can you believe?
it's ugly, man. It's really weird.
Imagine the conversations they have in the back room when that cult or startup really takes off. It's like, I can't believe these motherfuckers are really buying this shit, man.
Dude.
Or maybe they're so in
Wow.
their own fucking bullshit that they're kind of just like, like this guy for sure. Like he definitely fucking jacks off to himself every morning fucking talking about.
Well,
the Bible.
Scientology is another one. That's another weird.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scientology.
Scientology basically like they separate people from their families and their loved ones, and yeah, no, that's a weird one.
That one, yeah. Scientology is set of belief and practices invented by Ron Hubbard.
For a guy for somebody that it's weird because most religions they go so far back, it's just like grandfathered in, whereas this one the guy that started this had a driver's license, bro. He went to the service net. What is it? Like, what do they call it in the States? The DMV to renew his license. Like, this is like what,
God.
like 1950s, I think,
Yeah.
that it started, and it just blown up. And like, you had the amount of people that have just like, I don't know, maybe I might be bullshitting, but I remember that you have like the head of it right now has been linked to people that have like disappeared. Like they haven't seen his wife in years. Look that up, actually. Maybe I'm talking shit, but look up like the head of Scientology and like wife.
Before that, for some context, so Scientologists believe that people are immortal alien beings called thetans who have forgotten their true nature and are trapped on Earth in a human body. Scientologists believe that each thetan has lived numerous lives in the past, both on Earth, in our physical bodies, and on other planets. So guy that started it was this Hubbard guy, but you said
Ron Hubbard, yeah, but the
Yeah.
guy that's running it right now, like the Pope of the Scientology, like apparently no one's seen his wife in years. Like his wife just disappeared.
Shelley Miscavige
Miss
has
Miscavige, yeah.
has sparked intrigue for years. She married David in 1982, and they rose together in the Church of Scientology as members of an elite group called Commodore's Messenger Organization. She's rumored to have played a large role in the church alongside David until 2006, and so apparently she was found after hidden for 12 years. She's still missing.
She hasn't resurfaced, right?
Now a report claims, this is a report from 2019, that the 58-year-old is alive in mid-December, was spotted leaving a Scientology cruise ship. So she's good, I guess.
Reportedly spotted
Reportedly spotted. But what was the theory?
that like she might be gone, like she might be dead. That they're covering up her murder,
Oh,
her disappearance. Because
why?
if
Was she just
well, bro, it's a weird. I don't know. I can't comment too on it. I don't want to
says
comment
here
on it
she's
because
alive.
he says who
Says
knows who
here,
wrote it?
by
Fucking a
people
Scientologist might have written it.
There's like 3 different dates here, 3 different years about when she was last
So
seen in public.
wild,
2007, 2023, fucking 2000.
Where is that? Inside Edition?
This is a bunch of sites, Wiki, Newsweek. Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway,
wild. Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of GoFundMe and shit like that, and people running away with the money, and just and I guess this kind of ties into a thought that I had throughout this week too, and I guess it kind of it almost ties back to what we were originally discussing about podcasting and why this is like doing what we genuinely love doing it, or not. Sorry, not that we genuinely love this, but like are genuinely interested in doing it. It's just for our own sake, and
Exactly.
not for any producer. We're not doing this for money at the moment right now, but man, I can't imagine living a life where you're almost kind of like just a scammer, bro. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, like there's like a staple story in entrepreneurship is the fucking crazy talented CEO, gifted CEO that gets all this money, is able to fish for all this investment from all these other smart people, and they just run away with it. They either
what's the biggest example?
A great example is the CEO of WeWork. Another great example is Sam Friedman, who's obviously in jail now.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, a lot of these CEOs that
WeWork, what's that?
WeWork is the company that you're able to go in and either your own startup or just yourself, an individual, are able to actually work in what they call it. They give
They're like office pods, or
shared
whatever.
office spaces,
yeah, office spaces,
right?
yeah.
And so WeWork, the story with them, the TLDR, because I only know as far as a TLDR goes, but they basically were popping off, and their CEO came up with it really was like the MJ of that space, of that industry.
Mm-hmm.
They were like the biggest company when it comes to shared office spaces, and they were growing really fast, got a lot of really good
seed funding.
Yeah, a lot of funding from a lot of prominent investors. And then obviously COVID had a huge impact on their company, and they pretty much weren't able to recover since. And the CEO did a lot of sketchy things, and he basically rode off with a lot of fucking money. And I think now,
like legally, almost.
Well, yeah, legally, of course, of course. And I think now he just pretty much rode off to the sunset. But that's
the nature of the game. If he did it legally, that's the nature of the game.
That is the nature of the game.
That's
but morally, I mean, more.
How do you live with that?
How do you live?
I think people live with that easy, man.
Easily,
right? Some people just do not have a certain conscience about them, and you know what? Like, I think that's just that you chalk that up to human nature.
Human nature.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's interesting to think about, because I don't know if you ever like thought about putting yourself in their shoes. As I am right now, I don't know if I could like fucking live with myself, bro. Knowing that I fucked a lot of people out there.
How did he actually fuck people over though?
Well,
like, did he do any violence to anybody? Did he take money off of people's like tables that he shouldn't have taken money off of?
In that
tables?
case, I mean, he in that case,
because if it was structured in his deal that he's able to do that, I don't see any issue.
Well, the issue with that particular example is that if you're an investor, right?
Yeah.
And you invested into this company on information that you were given from the CEO or whatever committee, and it turns out that either it was false or that they were just completely wrong. I mean, yeah, that was a bet that you made from an investor's perspective, and you gotta live with that, right?
Correct.
Whether that's your own money or whether that's from the people, a fund where other people are putting their money in and kind of believe in you as well.
Yeah.
Right. But that's you're right. I think in that case too. I mean,
it's ugly, but I don't think that there's anything in like it doesn't feel good. Like maybe, but I don't think, as long as he didn't do anything against the law, he didn't commit any violence to anybody, then I don't necessarily see anything inherently wrong with it per se.
If there's a scam that goes down where it doesn't align inherently with the law, it doesn't mean that it's morally correct.
No, I'm not saying.
Right.
Well, I'm not. Well, okay, I see what you're saying. I'm not saying that. But
It is fair game. 100%.
It's fair game.
Yes, especially in that
But-
world where you're kind of betting on the future outcome of what information people are giving you today,
Correct.
particularly the companies giving you
Correct.
that information, the CEO, right? A better example would be like crypto scams, where people
where people get pulled the rug pulled under them.
Right.
That's different. That's
different, but it's
yeah.
the same. It's the same principle. It's the same
Is
principle.
it though?
where-
Is it though?
I think so. I think it's touching on the same principles where you have.
I think if
someone-
you squint really hard, then yeah.
No, I don't think
know.
so.
I don't know.
think so.
Okay, but because the thing is, okay, look, the guy ran off with a bunch of money, but is that money? Is that something that is that if it was structured in his deal that he's able to do that? Fair game, number one, right? But number two, if it's not like he pulled the rug from under these people, where it's just like, no, hey, here's a bunch of money here that it's actually supposed to go to you, but instead of it going to you, it's going to go to me now. I don't think that's different from what you're describing about the crypto, where literally like you have people get the rug pulled under them, where like the crypto exchange, for example, will take everybody's funds, where that's actually those people's individual funds, and then stealing that. That's different from like, hey, investor, this is yet like sure you invested this money, but technically this is within the deal that we made with the CEO. He's not taking money from you; he's taking money from the company. That's different. I think that's different. I think there's a distinction there.
Right. Within the realms of, we're still looking at it from the realm of law and legal, I think,
Right.
for the most part. But, like,
From an
again,
ethics
from an
standpoint.
ethics standpoint, it's like, if I'm a CEO, and I think a lot of CEOs might do this today, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility for them to kind of inflate their shit and say, hey, like, this is fucking the next thing, bro. Like, we're next up. Give me all this investment. And this investment aren't just coming from these parties that have their own money. A lot of these
Mhm.
parties that are investing into these companies are taking money from other people, whether they're rich or not rich. That's whatever, but it depends on what fund or what company you're looking at.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, people have to buy into that, whether it's again from the
So
actual
do you think they got
company
misled?
themselves. But yeah, there's a lot of well in that world, like yeah, if you're not doing your due diligence enough, there's a lot of
But that's what I'm
misleading. There's a lot of
saying.
people-
Like,
yeah,
due diligence
And that's
is
fair
the
game.
key term here, right?
and that's fair game, 100%. But at the end of the day, like it's going back to that principle for me, where if I'm going to, as I am right now, and maybe this will change in the future, who knows? But as I am right now, it's like it's such a far fetched thing for me to even grasp, being in the position where I have to like inflate this idea, this concept, and share that with people and sell them on that vision, and not execute on that, knowing that I didn't execute on that promise that I made to those people, and now other people
Are gonna suffer.
are going to quote unquote suffer,
Mhm.
right? So like again, a lot of these people that are investing into these companies are pretty well off.
Right.
These
exactly.
parties are pretty well off.
Exactly.
But for the people that are, like pension funds, for example, that are losing out on their pension because they're because someone on their behalf is investing into a WeWork that ultimately fails,
Mhm,
and now their fucking investment is eviscerated.
That's the name
know
of
what I
the
mean?
game,
That's the name of
bro.
the game, right?
And
Yeah,
you know what?
yeah.
Like, look, from it's easy for us to shout out these platitudes of principle and ethics, and we're not in that position.
It is 100%.
Who knows what I actually don't know like that story. Maybe I'll feel differently after I dig into it a little bit more with WeWork. But that's the law of don't hate the player, hate the game.
It is.
Chalk it up to that.
Hate that game specifically.
Yes.
But I mean,
And honestly, you got yourself into that,
Yeah.
and you didn't put things to mitigate that. If, like I said, yes, you're right. Maybe it might be unethical. We don't know fully if it's unethical, depending on like the full context. But from a legal standpoint, if there's no one knocking on his door to arrest him, technically, like that's
yeah, it's fair game,
that's
100%.
fair game, man.
It's fair game, and you're absolutely right that as someone sitting and that's not in those shoes, it's easy, it's convenient for me to say
Like-
this, but I can say that if I were to choose between two paths, where the one path for me to get riches would be to go through that game.
Yeah.
I'd rather play the game.
Yeah,
where we're
no.
doing this.
I
You know what I mean?
absolutely agree, but it's a lot of what is happening right now. It's like we're guys that are getting mad at Tiger Woods for cheating on his wife when we ourselves don't know what it's like to have a bunch of Scandinavian models just coming off the bus, cheering our name, wanting to sleep with us.
I don't.
A lot of
I don't
people-
think
a
I'm
lot of
from that
people
perspective. I see what you're saying. I
A
hear
lot
what
of
you're
people
saying.
judge Tiger for that, but it's like you don't know. Like
You don't know him.
a lot of people judged Arnold for what he did. Like how are you? Like how are you to say anything to Arnold?
Yeah.
And then like get on this like moral high ground as if you know anything what it's like to be in his shoes.
That's a bigger principle to cover there. But I think the main point that I was trying to make,
Yeah.
and why I think content creation in general, like genuine content creation, is always going to win in the future.
Yes, yes,
Is
agreed.
like take the example of like a Rogan, right? Because Rogan is really exemplifying what I have in mind with that path that I want to personally go down.
And we're both on that. We're
Which
on the
is
same
being
page.
your completely genuine self,
Yeah.
having completely genuine interest, and sharing that with the world, making content that's adding value, and selling shit along with that. Like all of his sponsorship is shit that he already uses. He just wants to share it with you and be like, "Yo, I use this."
And sometimes he'll say shit where it's just like he's not even sponsored, but he just likes it. So he's
Exactly.
gonna give flowers to that place, and then it's a game changer for a lot of these small companies.
Right.
Like the endorsement from Rogan, even though he's not sponsored by them.
It's
That's dope.
huge.
I think
Yeah.
because some people I like give that kind of power to other people. Like that's why I'm so glad that it happened to Joe, because I feel like Joe I don't think that he's compromisable at this point. You know what I mean? Where
Can be.
I think he's made so much bank where if he doesn't want to do something, he'll tell you to go fuck yourself. He really showed during the pandemic that he's not going to bend no knee to nobody. He's going to do what he's going to fucking do regardless. And that's what I think a lot of people I think even though he was kind of fighting against the established like media, like CNN really did him like they did
Did a
him
number.
dirty, bro.
Yeah, they did.
And I think a lot of people saw through that. Like, and I think this is a perfect example where people saw just how disingenuous the news really was during that time, because it was so obvious. Like, even to this day, it's still so obvious that they're not unbiased at all. They're super biased, which is kind of sad because CNN back in the day, I remember yeah, these guys are actually, you know, they seem fair, but it's so obvious that they're just pro Democrats. Fox, there was never any doubt
Yeah.
to begin with. They're always pro Republican, but at least when you watch it,
you know what you're getting.
you know what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's where when Rogan wasn't caving to like the messaging or whatever, and he was still being that skeptic and still riding for the people that actually wanted to know and talk about this stuff. I think that's where he really resonated with a lot of people, and he just grew from there. So I think Joe's a great I mean, what I'm getting at is, give this kind of power to some other people, to lesser men. I don't think that you would have a lot of people handle it the way that he handled it.
Right.
And I think he was able to do that because he was in a position of fuck you. He was in a position to be like, yo, like you're not paying me money. Like I made my own audience.
Right.
I made this myself. I'm gonna be okay. You
Right.
can't take this away from me. Literally. What are you gonna do? You're gonna take me off the air. You're gonna make me even bigger. Because you basically you've made him a martyr, and like that's the last thing that you would want to do. As like from a media standpoint, you've just made him that much more infamous.
Right.
And people are drawn to that.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's going to win ultimately at the end of the day.
It's going to be a longer path
Yeah.
because we're not maybe maximizing on certain trends that don't resonate with us. But to your point, from a long enough time scale, I think we're going to end up winning one way or another.
One way or another.
We like literally, bro, we're 13 episodes in.
Yeah.
Think about how the strides and leaps that we've made just like on a weekly basis. There was a couple of weeks where obviously it's not going to be like a perfect brick.
Yeah.
But from a production value, from even just a skill development standpoint, I think we're in between episodes. We're just trying to improve every single time. And as long as we have that lens, as long as we have that attitude going forward, I think like this is just bound to be successful.
Yeah.
It's bound to be.
At least at
From a
the very least-
financial standpoint. But even if it's not, like we talked about, we still have it as a body of work that we can still both look back on.
Right. And at the very least, it's unreasonable, like you said, or it's unreasonable to think that it wouldn't be anything that wouldn't be quote unquote successful. And successful is a subjective thing. I think again that it's that North Star for me. One of the North Stars for this is if there's someone out there, just that one person that would have a positive influence from all the shit that we're talking about, can draw something away from all the shit that we're talking about on a week by week basis, then that's enough for me. You know what I mean? As cliche as it sounds, it's genuinely like I'm genuinely like I fuck with that. I fuck with that
exactly.
hard, you know?
Like the way I look at it, because we're not under any pressure to grow this to a certain metric. I mean, the only pressure that we have is the pressure we put on ourselves. So it's not to say that we're not going to be doing things and put things in place to help this grow. But right now, I think we both recognize and acknowledge that we're still working out this skill. There's going to come a time where we're just like, okay, I think we're at a good point now. How do we actually grow this? How do we make it a little bit more tight? So, for example, it could be something like adding an intro song, adding, being more present on TikTok, being more present on Instagram, like all these other things that we're not doing today. But I think our priorities are in the right spot, which is the focusing on the art of this, the art of podcasting, because it in my opinion, it's a fucking art. Because there's a lot, like there's like the production and the topics are your paints and paintbrushes, and then the actual recording is the canvas. All sorts of different people are doing podcasts. Some of them are doing it are more from a commercial standpoint. Some of them are doing it from a more creative standpoint. But just like any art form, it's going to be different, and people appreciate it for different reasons.
Right.
And hopefully they appreciate it for us, because then they can't kill the idea of I mean, what I'm getting at is like we can't. Hopefully we get to the point where they can't have any power over us. When I say they, I'm talking about like we don't have to answer to anybody aside from the actual audience members, or
Exactly.
as far as like where we're taking this direction, the direction of this body of work.
Yeah. I think where we take the direction is up to us, 100%. But as far as like it's almost like a train, right? Like if you want to be a successful train that carries a lot of passengers, yeah, you gotta guide those passengers to where they want to go and where the destination is. Like you got to set that yourself, but like if you want to be successful at the same time, you got to have people that fuck with your train. You know, you can't have like a shitty train.
Exactly.
You got to address the issues and patch up the train whenever you take a stop.
It might take 5 years for us to get to 1,000 listeners. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, because we're going.
I really don't give a shit. We're gonna do it regardless. If we get to 100,000 before, that's amazing. Great.
Cherry on top.
We're gonna make some merch, and we're gonna. If we get 100, we get to 100,000, bro. We're running merch for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, it'll be an option for sure.
Look, obviously, we're not doing this just for money, but the money obviously is a motivator too.
It is a motivator.
100%. We would be lying to you. We would be hypocrites if we were to tell you that it's not. Like, we'd be inauthentic to tell you that that's not a motivator, because obviously it'd be sick to get paid for this. 100%.
Well, yeah, it'll be sick to get paid for anything where I think it was. Do you follow Naval on Twitter?
Naval? I don't think so.
Navalism? It's a great Twitter. He's like a Twitter account, but he's like a tech CEO or whatever. But like he'll literally have just a weekly or like a bi-daily, like every other days.
Bi-daily.
every other couple of days he'll put like a quote, and it's like
bisexual.
Yeah. Bilateral. But it'll just be like a quote that I think he made, or he might be getting it from someone else, but it's actually some really insightful stuff, and I follow it, and it's great content. And one of the quotes that really stuck with me was something along the lines of, if you're able to find something that you do, and you're able to learn and you're able to share that with people and get money out of it, that's like the mecca. That's like the dream.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like every single, like, and this is like the perfect activity, I think, for that, where we're able to talk about our interests and we're able to share value with people while talking about our interests.
Exactly.
And one day perhaps get money from it too, from people that fuck with us so hard that they're willing to spend their hard-earned money on that subscription or that thing to support us, that t-shirt. Like that's like a win-win, right? But it's also that that money incentive is real, right? And that's gonna drive us to want to like make even better. Like what other motivator is there than money to make stuff better? You know,
money is just a vehicle for freedom, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that money makes the world. Money doesn't bring. Sorry, I'm not saying that money brings happiness. I'm saying that money allows you. It makes it makes things easier. Put it that way.
right?
I mean, fuck. Obviously, that's an obvious statement to make. That's obvious. That's about as obvious of a fucking take that you can have. But
It's
you know, thankfully we don't have. We're not like one of those cats that like. Thankfully, this is the kind of stuff that we're kind of like into, and we're gonna kind of take it to the next level. Because I'll tell you something that some guys that just are just built different, like people that will train professional martial arts, for example. Like, imagine that being your fucking passion. Like, it's not to say I don't have jujitsu as a passion, whatever, but for people to like go constantly, like literally go to war anytime that they fight, like professionally, and for that to be your passion, like to get banged up basically and lose a bunch of brain cells. That's and money is your motivator. That's a different kind of like. Imagine being like a UFC fighter,
yeah,
right? And now like you're constantly in a state where like. I would not want to aspire to be like a UFC fighter, for example.
right.
And I'm loosely in that zone, in that world anyway, through just by way of like, from jujitsu, for example. That's a tough gig, man. Like we saw last night was a big card, right?
All right.
What? So like for UFC, so can you imagine like like having to train and like basically just go through that training camp and then like that. Imagine like okay, like look at Jokic.
Yep.
Right. Jokic clearly basketball is not his first love.
It is.
But
it is.
But that's what do you mean?
For sure. I mean, like you don't.
He loves riding horses.
He does too. Yeah. But like this whole thing, I get it. It is fun to think that this guy's just fucking killing everyone, and basketball is his side hustle. At the end of the day, you don't.
I wouldn't say it's a side hustle.
Right.
Yeah.
It's his 9 to 5.
It's his 9 to 5.
That's what a lot of people are saying.
It is definitely not his 9 to 5. It's what I'm getting at is that he worked his ass off
exactly
to be able to make that kind of money in something that like he does kind of treat it like a job. He really does. The way that he carries himself, right?
The way he carries himself, yeah.
As opposed to like if you don't see him smiling fucking playing ball, but you see him smiling riding horses. It's just like how at my job you don't really see me having the same zest and like enthusiasm as you see me on the jiu-jitsu mats. So can you imagine where now your gig is? I'm gonna go in there and fucking imagine being so good at fighting, but it's not really your first passion, and then like you just choose to do that. Yeah, you're just good. You just happen to be good at it, and now you're going in there going to fucking war with people, and like it's just your 9 to 5. You know what I mean? Thank God that that's not something that like that's almost like it's a gift and a curse being good at martial arts.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, that's interesting, and I think that ties a little bit what I was talking about too, with maybe there's some CEOs that are out there that are just meant to be fucking CEOs and are meant to almost be like this salesperson that is able to persuade people, and it's just their natural ability, their fucking natural red belts to lead and persuade, and in that game, that skill set is going to yield them huge fucking rewards, right? But again, like. It's like and I don't know, maybe is podcasting that thing for us? Who knows? We don't know.
Yeah.
Like we're just doing it because we think it's a valuable skill, and it's a platform where we're able to provide value and also learn a lot of new things. I think very bare minimum it's that. But who knows if this is one of those things for us? And I think at the end of the day, as long as you're intentional with what game you want to play and what kind of example you want to follow. Like, I think Rogan, and I think other people that are like him that are making content and have audiences of people that genuinely fuck with him, and he's able to, going back to Naval, do what he loves to do and get and learn, and while doing all that shit, get monetary
I think
rewards
that's the
from
dream.
that.
I think that's
It's the dream.
I think
I think it's like
that's
just
the pinnacle. That's the pinnacle.
if you were to compare that to like going down the CEO route, comparing to going down the MMA
Yeah.
route, like
Because
that's the dream.
imagine
you know?
doing all the work that it takes to become a CEO and then make it to the mountaintop and realize what the fuck, I don't even like this company.
Yeah,
That can happen.
that can happen. Whereas with this, where you have complete control and you're doing things because you're authentically doing it for the
You're not obligated.
You're not obligated.
Yeah,
right.
there might be some like somewhere along the line. There's probably going to be obligations. Of
Oh
things
yeah,
that we don't
accountability,
necessarily-
ownership
Yeah,
over what you
right,
said or what
yeah.
you did, for sure. There's going to be that in any kind of pursuit.
endeavor. There's going to be things for like when you reach the mountain, when you try to reach the mountaintops that you're not going to want to do, but you know that that's what you have to do to fucking
Right.
do it. I still think that that's still authentic, right? Versus, oh, there's this trend right now. I don't really give a fuck about it. It's not like, even if it does give us like another 100 viewers or whatever, like I could care less about that. I don't give a fuck.
Same. Yeah.
Keep your 100 users. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Or
it's
100 viewers.
the only case where it could kind of be a win-win is if we're genuinely interested in that.
Yeah,
thing.
that's what I'm saying.
You know
Oh,
what I
sticking
mean?
to the stuff that actually
Yeah,
genuinely
exactly.
interests us. Yeah.
We're at 11:58 right now. Should we?
Actually?
Yeah.
Oh
I
fuck.
need to go take a piss.
God,
let's take a quick.
like we didn't
break.
even get to the topics that
Yeah,
that are on
let's
the
take 5.
list. And we're back.
I guess wrap up that tie the knot on that topic. I think we chose a pretty good game, pretty funny game.
Yeah, I think this is dope. I think it uses a lot of skills that we already have, and so I mean this is a cool way, a low pressure way, a low lift way of creating a body of work, because otherwise it's just like, okay, do you want to do a vlog? Yeah, okay. Well, like what are the other traditional like avenues
Content.
of
Well,
content
yeah, I
creation,
think
right?
content in general is just it's not going anywhere. It's only going to grow from this point,
Yeah,
and
it
it's
really
going
is.
to win. It's going to win at the end of the day. It's going to beat out traditional media,
Traditional media.
that we consume, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that unfold like literally day by day, right? So I think under that umbrella, there's like a million things you could do. Podcasting, I think, is the game that we obviously chose. And it's not to say that it's the only game, right? You can do anything, right? You can do you can do 2 podcasts. Fuck, if you wanted to. But at the end of the day, I think other things that we have considered, vlogs are up there. Just gaming content for me at one point. What else, man? Like, I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. But the thing with vlogs and
Well, there's like
content-
skits and stuff.
skits,
and
yeah, reactionary content,
reaction,
YouTube videos, and shit.
pranks.
But all those things, with the exception of maybe the gaming thing, we're coming from the angle of trying to just make money out of it,
Mhm.
or trying to get viewership out of it. Whereas this, to me, and I probably feel the same, or you probably feel the same way, is we're doing it because we're actually developing a skill here, and we're doing it first and foremost to add value and create that body of work. Where it's just conversations where we're pretty much like training here to become like
We're training here.
conversationalists.
And that's why, even though this is a topic we've talked about pretty much
Every
consistently
episode,
every
yeah.
episode,
Yeah.
we probably have to put this like to bed at some point. And what I mean by that is maybe not talk about it as because right now, to your point, we're just practicing, we're developing that skill, and then hopefully we come to a point where we're just like doing updates here and there, as opposed to making it kind of like the
Just
prime
this?
topic every single time.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think at the very least, though, we're interested in it, right?
Yeah,
Love
exactly.
talking
We're reflecting on it.
2,
Reaction and
This-
we're reflecting, and
this could, for whoever's listening now or in the future, inspire someone to make their own podcast.
1,000,000.
You know what I mean? So I think that alone is, again, going like, this is just talking about our interests, and this is the value, right? The value and the beauty behind content creation is like, you see that person doing it and they're talking about it, they're actually living it.
Mhm.
It's like, fuck, I could do that too.
Mhm.
I could.
But a lot of the time is like what I like about what we're doing was we're actually kind of like like breaking the fourth wall a little bit and showing what the guts there is that goes into doing something like this. It's not like part of being a master at that skill or that trade or whatever it is making it look so easy that someone that's watching is like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's not, it's not the only sign of a true master, but I think it's a sign where you're watching them. Like I watch Gordon Ryan, I'm like, fuck, I could like he makes it look so easy. I could fucking do that. But really, we know in reality, no fucking chance. Not without a lot of fucking practice and dedication.
That's
So
such a
I
good
think
point,
it's
man.
a true sign of like. So yes, you're absolutely right. If we can inspire somebody to be like, oh fuck, that looks easy. If these guys can do it, they can. And you're absolutely right. You absolutely can. But we don't want to make any false. And it's not to say that we've done anything like, like our production value or anything like that isn't anything anybody else can pick up. But to a lot of people, this to me is like, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
So I don't know about the editing software that you're using.
Right.
I don't know about the AI that you're using. I don't know about the camera settings that are being done here to optimize like what we're doing.
Right.
So a sign of someone being good at something is making it look so easy that someone else is going to be like, oh, I want to do that. And then an indicator for them as to whether or not they want to stick to it is that suck worth it? Because a lot of this stuff, I mean, although we find it interesting, it to a lot of people is going to be remedial. Like I don't fucking want to learn about that shit. Imagine how many people that would probably be great at podcasts, but they just don't have the resources around them or the desire to fucking actually learn about all the back end administrative stuff that goes into it.
Yeah. Right. It's so true. It's so accurate, man, that a true sign of a master is someone that can make it look easy and convince other people that they could do the same thing. Like I find that with writing.
Yeah,
with
dude.
seeing good writing, you can distinguish between good writing and not good writing because
Right.
the good writing, you read it and you're like, fuck, that was easy to read. That was easy to read. I comprehended everything.
Concise.
But that is like such a fucking powerful skill.
How many reps did it take?
Right? So yeah, I mean that'll be a cool skill that I would want to develop.
Mhm.
And just in mastery in general, it's just a time thing, man.
I want to get Japanese with it.
Yeah, it's a time thing. It's the concept of
Is that racist? Maybe not. No, it's a compliment. I'm giving them flowers because Japanese love to take one specific thing and just master the fuck out of it.
It is so bizarre how we live in a society.
Attitude of Kaizen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But it's so bizarre that we live in like being able to make content that goes viral or that trends on the premise of being able to learn something in like X amount of time. And usually X is like a short ass amount of time. Like, I picked up programming recently and like learning programming, and a lot of content is like, you can learn, C++ in like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn JavaScript in a day, 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that sells. That idea of learning something and attaining skills, high value skills.
But it's also setting false expectations.
It's setting just completely false
Yeah,
expectations.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You should not have that expectation of learning something that takes literally years, hours of your life to actually master, and expect to get it in 24
Something
hours.
that's easy to master is usually something that most people don't give a fuck about.
Exactly. Yeah. And to expect that you can master anything worth mastering in such a like and get content like that too, and like buy into content like that, whether that be books or videos, and like, no, man, like I definitely fell into that trap.
That's a clickbait.
It's a clickbait thing. Yeah,
it's a
100%.
clickbait title, right? Because obviously everybody wants to like if you're doing it, if you're trying to be smart about it, you're obviously trying to min max your time because I think I've said it before. It's rich man, poor man. Every man has 24 hours in a day. It's about how those 24 hours are spent. So it makes the psychology of why that type of clickbait works completely makes sense.
It does.
But it doesn't paint accurate picture for something of being excellent. Like if it was so easy that everybody would do it, everybody would be fucking doing it.
Right.
But do we see that? No. Certain things that look easy, a lot of times, even though you might have a talent for it, if you're not fucking working hard, you're not going to be able to make the most out of it. Hard work beats talent every day of the week.
So it's so true, and like a great example that I just thought of as like just the past week, because I've been spending quite some time the past week on the programming stuff. But I think it's just such a snapshot, I guess, of the current state of society's attention span and society's like where the value is going, because
Right.
you compare side by side in terms of view count. That video that says, "Oh, learn Python in 24 hours," for example, would have hundreds of thousands of views. But then the actual like Harvard free lecture on learning programming, learning artificial intelligence
views?
is like 50,000
Tens of thousands of
tens
views,
of
right?
thousands of views, right?
Exactly.
So that's just a telltale sign, I think,
Mhm.
of like we just don't like there's just this reluctance to actually like put in the work, man. Put in like long hours
Yeah.
of work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where that for a lot of things, bro, is the only way.
Yeah.
It's the only way. It's the only.
It's just
answer.
like in jiu-jitsu, when a new student comes in, all of them ask questions in such a way as like, how do I get like, oh, do you have any tips for me on like how to get better, like quicker or whatever, like, you know what I mean, like how can I do that? And the answer is just like always, just keep showing up to class, man.
Just keep showing up.
Don't even worry about that. Just keep showing up, and then eventually, you might not realize it on a day-to-day basis, but if you keep showing up and training with intent, one way or another, you will absorb technique. You will absorb knowledge.
Yeah.
You just got to keep showing up. You got to work hard. You got to do it with intent. You might not realize it on a day-to-day that you're actually improving. And I always tell people that are starting out, you're usually not going to realize it until one of two things happens. Either A, you have a teammate that you started out with stop training for a bit for maybe an injury for whatever reason, and they come back, and then you're whooping that ass because they haven't been training, right? That's one way that you'll usually realize it when you're a new person. The other one, which is the more common way, is you're training for like 3-4 months. You might realize, shit, am I really making any improvements? I keep showing up here. Everybody that's better than me keeps fucking me up. They keep not like in a violent way, but like they're so much more effective with their technique. But then when a new person comes in, and then they realize, holy shit, I actually got some skills. I can actually pull some of this off against someone that's untrained. And that's a infectious feeling, man.
It is.
That's just like, oh shit,
I love it.
they were right.
Yeah.
Like I just got to keep showing up. I just got to keep working on that technique. I gotta practice the things that we're learning during class while we're rolling, and then I will get better at this. And it's really empowering because when it's something for me, I could speak from my own journey, is when I took that kind of like jiu-jitsu fundamentally changed the way that I learn shit. Where I embrace the suck of learning shit at the beginning. Like I accept I'm gonna suck at this. I know I'm gonna suck at this. It's that white belt mentality, that WBM. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Where
sir.
you realize, oh shit, I know I'm gonna eat shit for the next X amount of time, but I know if I'm consistent with this, I'm gonna actually get better at it.
Yeah.
And I forget which there's this, I forget his name, but he's this I think he's like a tech CEO as well. But Goggins, he went viral a few years back because he had Goggins stay at his house or whatever. And he was saying, what was he saying? Oh my God, I literally just had it, but
let's
lost
query
it.
this. What should I search?
No. What were what were we just talking about? I literally just had a fucking brain fart right now.
We were just talking about like training, like 10 out of 10, like putting in the time, growing up.
Oh yeah. Okay. He was saying how if you spend 60, I think the number he used was 16 minutes a day on a particular skill every single day, just showing up and actually like at your desk writing or at your desk learning a new language, you are going to become better than 90% of the population after 1 year.
Yeah. I think I read something along those lines too.
Yeah, and it's so true. Like,
So true.
like even when I was learning like I was doing French every day. By the time I went to France and was hanging out with my friends over there, I'm like, after a week, I'm like, bro, like I could actually understand what the fuck you guys are. I might not be able to communicate like verbally the same to the same degree, but I was actually understanding them. Yeah. Like it's just like when I was younger and I was able to understand Bisaya, but I wasn't able to speak it. It was the same thing when I was in France. Like I could understand what my friends were saying,
Crazy.
and so I could actually follow conversation, but I couldn't really like respond. I was like, oh, je suis désolé, je suis désolé. It was like, I'm sorry, like je ne
How
comprends.
did you were you on Duolingo?
Bro, I was just on Duolingo.
Yeah.
I was spending 50 minutes a day.
You know what's a really cool success story about that was, or that I've heard was from my coworker that taught himself Spanish.
Yeah.
From Duolingo, and he taught himself in 2020. He's talking about back in 2020. He was talking about because I asked him more about it because I was genuinely interested. I was like, man, like, and this is the reason why I downloaded Mimo last week to learn coding is because I do believe it after talking to him, because he's like probably the only success story that I've heard like on a personal level,
Right.
where someone was able to actually learn like full blown Spanish.
So check this out. So one of my friends that I met in Surigao, shout out Carlone. He's from France but lives in Australia. When we first met, I'm like, oh, like you have good English or whatever. She's like, oh, I just started 6 months ago. Like, what?
So sick.
She's like, because she's young too. She was like, I think she's, sorry, Carlone, but like if you're end up watching this at some point, but I want to say like early 20s, 21, 22, 23 maybe. And she moved from France because she hates Paris, she hates France. She moved to Australia, and she started dating this Italian guy. But the only way that they could communicate was through English, right?
Yeah.
So she picked up, and I'm actually on this app now. It's way better than Duolingo.
Oh,
Loads better than
Really?
Duolingo.
Yeah.
It's called Busu. And so she just went on Busu for 6 months, learned English, and she like was able to understand everything that I was saying.
Wow.
There would be times where she's like, "Oh, what was that word that you said? What does that mean?" Like stuff like that. But generally, like, dude, she was keeping up. It was so impressive. And I'm just like, "Yo, you've just been speaking
6 months.
She started 6 months prior with nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
That's crazy.
Nothing. But hey,
did you ask her?
there's no better motivator than a partner that can speak a language. You know what I mean? That's actually, so that's a great way of learning a language, obviously. But still, 6 months from no English at all to being able to converse really well with like a native speaker. Right?
But again, it's who's going, like, she for sure within those 6 months probably spent at least
she was immersed
3
in it.
hours.
She was immersed. Well, I mean, like
I
everybody around her was speaking language. That definitely
it's
helps.
a setting
right?
thing. It's an intentional thing where you're actually sitting down, you're studying and you're writing and you're doing all those things. But it's possible, man. And 6 months for a lot of people, 6 months is a long time, but it's really not.
It's not.
It's really not.
It goes by like this.
And so when I hear, like, last night when we were with some of our family, our cousins, and we were watching UFC at Boston Pizza, and Mark, our cousin, was talking about not wanting to watch One Piece because it's 1,000 episodes. Oh, it's going to take me a year. It's like, bro, that year is going to pass anyway.
It's going to pass anyway.
And if you just go on a regimen where you're watching a schedule, where you're watching it like one episode a day or 2 episodes every other day, you'll get there.
You know what it did for me,
what I mean?
actually? At the cost of me surfing through YouTube like I used to, it just got replaced with One Piece. That's basically what happened. Because there were a bunch of YouTube channels that I would watch like quite regularly, and I realized, you know what, I don't even fucking watch YouTube like that anymore. I only watch YouTube now to like listen to like compilations of comedy podcasts, basically.
Yeah.
Aside from that, like all that viewing time online has just been shifted to fucking One Piece.
You know what? Right now, let's do it right now. I want to check my screen time because I think last week I spent.
Oh, yesterday I was fucking bad.
Oh fuck, we were using my phone.
We're using our phone.
But I'm gonna put this in the.
We should do a screen time challenge. Actually, I like that.
I don't
every
mind
week.
that, yeah.
Every week, let's do a counter.
I'm down.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I think I for sure spent a lot more time like I wanted to when I mentioned it last week on education versus entertainment, because like YouTube for me is like the biggest social media time sink that
sunk
for me. personally that I spend my time on. And so getting away from the entertainment side of that, because now at least the past couple of weeks I've been spending it more on like just education, as well as like from like jiu-jitsu. Like I'll go in there to like watch a lot of jiu-jitsu matches and shit like that.
Yeah.
And then just like how-tos on like programming and stuff. So I think that's that contribution or whatever that
is spread
make
better.
Spread better.
Yeah.
So I'll have to double check on that again. But yeah, man, I think again the goal, I don't think it should be to reduce your screen time for the sake of just the number going down. It should just be,
what are you
placing.
consuming?
What are you consuming? Right?
Yeah, what are you working on?
Because like Duolingo, Busu, I would argue that just showing up every single day and going on those.
I've been on Spanish, brother.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and just
soy un hombre muy honrado.
Just being present, showing up, and going back to the point that you made, there's the intentionality factor of it. But even just like, yeah, you're not going to get the same amount of progression, you're not going to get there. You're
not going to have a steeper learning curve.
But at the bare
minimum, you're exposed to it.
You're 50% of the way there if you're just showing up.
Yeah.
If you just show up, you just check mark that 100%. Attendance. So
but
make that the bare minimum.
Don't get it twisted. Like just showing up is not going to be enough to master a certain thing.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be enough if your timeline
base minimum.
Yeah. It's base minimum.
Yeah.
But that base minimum, I personally think is like 50%.
Yeah, and maybe as you progress through that skill, it becomes less than 50%. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just,
in the
like
beginning, definitely.
Returns for sure.
Yeah, but
what else?
A good time to.
Yeah.
What do we got? What else? What time are we at?
We're at 12:30. We could probably wrap up.
Let's wrap up.
But I agree. Just I think in closing, we've kind of beaten the horse a little bit, beaten the dead horse on this topic.
It's a good topic, but I mean, I think for viewers, there's like, yo, bro, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We get it. You're doing this for the right reasons. That's literally the long and short of it is we're doing this for the right reasons. That's literally it.
That's
like shut the fuck up, move on.
that's the. But again, like
it's reflection. We're reflecting, and we're
reflecting. But we're also, I feel like every time we talk about it, we're getting more crystal clear.
We are. That's why I'm not mad at it. Like we're almost convincing ourselves as to why we're doing this.
Yeah.
But that's a part of the process. That's part of the process. You have to, like for anything that you go into, like especially if it's fun, you have to make that evaluation because there's only so much time in a day. Is the juice worth the squeeze on this? And the juice could be anything. It could be just in fulfillment from learning that skill, or fulfillment from doing that activity, or whatever the fuck it is, or you have other intentions for it, right? You have to make that evaluation of whether or not is that worth even going through it. Now, obviously, there might be times where you just do it for the fun of it, and more power fucking to you, 100%. But I think that's going to be based on. Well, not necessarily personality. What I'm getting at is, I think just the way, but by the nature of the way that we analyze things that we do, I think this is just how we're arriving to these types of conclusions. Some people it's just going to be a lot easier. It's like, oh yeah, I have fun in that. I don't even have to fucking reflect on it. I like it. That's it. Boom, done, over. You know what I mean? But I think just because of our personalities, we have to kind of go. This is part of our process. Of making sure, like, okay, are we actually in it for the right reasons? Are we actually headed in the right direction? And is this something that is, are we gonna see it as an obligation, or are we gonna see it as like, no, I want to do this?
Yeah,
right?
I get fucking fired up.
Yeah, exactly. I think, each week I'm having more and more fun of it because we're getting better. Like I could already feel that we're getting, like, I didn't even say fucking, you know what I mean, once. This whole time, baby. Bro.
Fucking better every fucking week. And, this definitely won't be one. I think, even if it's 0.5, that's still progress. Yeah. Progress is progress. But I think, like it's not the last time you're going to hear about this topic for sure. Because, it's just, like I said, I think the one thing that is really appealing about talking about content in general is, man, if we can inspire that one person to make content, you know what I mean? And do it for the same reasons we're doing this. That would be fucking sick. So tell us about that. Reach out to us. if for anyone that's listening now and in the future, but yeah, man, let's go on this road together. Let's go on this journey together. I think it's gonna be sick, man. We have a whole life ahead of us to make this, you know, this whole thing work
To do
out,
something
to
with
do
it.
something with it, you know, and to make
This is a
some
very
kind of impact.
pivotal, interesting time in the snapshot of human history. And like in the previous generation, it was the .com kind of like surge where a lot of people had like not necessarily FOMO, but there were a lot of, I feel like, missed opportunities for people that were in that generation. I feel like this is the same thing that's happening now where, man, we're gonna look back as like this is still ground level, and it's gonna be interesting like where this kind of space heads to. So I think we're still, it's just like Bitcoin. I think this is still early. Still early.
We're still ground level, ground zero, boys. And with that, yeah, I think we're good to wrap. Let's
Thanks for tuning in.
train.
Grateful for all y'all. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
We're gonna go and strangle. We're gonna do some simulated death matches. now.
We'll check in with you guys next week. Until
Us.
then, have a great week, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.